You're listening to the Download Youth Ministry Podcast.
Ready.
3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Download Youth Ministry Podcast. Doug Fields here in the DYM headquarters in the studio with 3 cameras for the first time ever.
This is high.
One there.
In the
One there.
center,
Top tier.
One there.
the center camera is focused on the Queen, Katie Edwards.
She's the center of the show.
And
Here
she
I
says
am.
hello not only
Welcome.
verbally but non-verbally as she's wearing a
Yes.
sweatshirt
Welcome
that says
and hello.
hello with sprinkles.
Yeah.
Sparkles.
Sprinkles.
Sparkles. It's just sparkles.
And
Yeah.
Josh is always wearing something
Free.
that is free. His says DYM Ambassador Josh Griffin.
That's me.
Welcome, you guys.
Hello,
this is
hello.
episode 347.
It's so great.
We are into the new year. We're well into the new year.
We are.
How are you doing with your youth pastor diet?
I'm down 18 pounds as of today, which feels pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
So I'm basically starting like every other diet, starting strong.
Is that why you're so hyper?
Dot,
'Cause
dot.
you're down a little.
Yeah, I'm down a
Yeah,
little emotionally.
totally.
Usually I just eat my feelings, and now I have to actually deal with my feelings. It's really lame. So,
Yeah.
Josh and I
lame.
were in Atlanta yesterday, and I took a picture of him eating breakfast.
Yeah.
And I thought, I should post this on the Facebook group at the Youth Pastor Diet.
Do you see how many sausages I was hiding under those eggs? There was a lot of. I like pork sausage.
That sounded weird.
Yeah, it does,
No, it
totally.
did. There's no getting around it.
Katie,
Not to mention, no, I'm not. I can't say
Katie,
it.
we have this thing called the Youth Pastor Diet that we started on January 1st. 1,300 people.
I know. It's all everyone's talking
it's
about.
amazing.
How are you
It's
doing on the
amazing.
diet, Mr. Fields?
Josh and I were gone for 2.5 days in Atlanta,
Yep.
and I came back 1.5 pounds heavier.
Really?
It was
Yep.
probably water weight from the plane.
That's what I'd like to
Yeah,
think.
you retain
Totally.
weight up
It's
in
just
the air. Everybody
travel
knows that.
weight.
Yeah,
It's not real.
I'm not that concerned.
Travel
not
weight
real.
is the
concerned.
story of my
It's
life.
a
Every time I
thing.
take a step, I have travel weight.
But I did.
we worked out with
I
Chef.
did drop like 100 places in the standings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah.
that's okay.
I'm
It's okay.
number
It's a
35 out of 800 guys that are in it or whatever.
Has the number
That's
one
pretty good.
person been number one?
The top 10
a
has a
while?
few familiar faces in it.
Okay.
There's one guy who has already lost over 20 pounds.
Holy bananas.
I don't even know how that's mathematically possible. He's probably starving himself. There's a ladies division as well. They're killing it.
separate Facebook groups.
Separate Facebook groups, separate leaderboards, the whole bit. And so killer prizes on the line. It's been a great
Yeah,
start.
we're doing prizes every week, which is fun. So not
Super
just for
fun.
anybody who stays in it. We do a drawing. We use our Pick Me app from Sidekick, and we just pick somebody and we send them $100 for a meal. We did that for male and female, and then miscellaneous prizes.
And a 16 pounds of protein powder or something too, just for kicks. This show is brought to you by youthpastordiet.com, apparently.
What's the grand prize again? It's something awesome,
1,500.
right?
$1,500 cash.
Yeah, I know.
And
That's so
there's
much
also
cash.
2 trips, a trip to the Caribbean, a trip to Hawaii, and more cash. Yeah, it's
So
pretty
much.
nuts.
That's amazing.
Hey, we are grateful to our friends at Orange and Leader Trex and Giving Central for
Absolutely.
sponsoring our show and helping pay for some of the bills
And
getting
the
3
camera setup
cameras
today, who is paying for that?
That's right.
I just can't know. I don't know which camera to look at. Is it
Josh,
you?
apparently,
Is it
see,
you?
that's the
Who is
difference
it?
between Josh and you and me, Katie, is you and me make eye contact with one another, and we're not playing to the cameras, but Josh...
I don't know what they're talking about.
I didn't even know there were cameras in the room.
I
Just
actually
talking
told
about
Josh
youth
on the
ministry
plane
over
the other
here.
day that I have to watch back the videos that we shoot because I'm always driving the video, like, here's what we got to
Sure.
communicate. And Josh has so many funny bits that I can't see or hear because I'm thinking about why are
Right.
we even doing this video, and I'm
Yep.
trying to drive the
Yep.
content.
And I'm just taking my shirt off somewhere.
And he's just doing it. It's actually
Right.
very, very funny. Josh, speaking of funny, is that on the last show you made a mistake.
oh no.
Yeah, it was the episode
Oh,
346,
what did I
and
do?
you created quite a bit of controversy with people who listen to the show. You said something about our members-only Facebook group, and we don't have a members-only
Okay,
Facebook
when
group.
you join a group in Facebook, you are the members of that group. Does that count as my apology? Kind of defensive?
I didn't hear sorry. I just
I'm
heard
super
like
sorry.
Yeah.
Super sorry. What I meant was
Welcome to my
our
life,
fr-
Katie.
I apologize for being late today. I'm sorry for misexplaining. What I meant was our Download Youth Ministry Facebook community It's amazing and awesome. If you're not a member of that group yet, you should be.
You're welcome, whether you're a gold, silver, or bronze member.
Yeah, you don't even
can
have
be part
to
of the Facebook.
necessarily.
There's over 10,000 people in it, youth workers answering each other's questions. It's a great community, but it's not.
So let me clarify.
It's not just for.
I'm sorry.
No.
It's for everyone.
If you have questions, go ahead and send the questions into
everybody.
podcast@downloadyouthministry.com, and we will try to answer your questions, or we won't.
Apologies.
But we
again.
like
But we will try.
I like to read them, and then I
like to hear them.
I pick them out and go, this will be fun to talk
Doug,
about.
why is there only 3 of us here today? I don't understand. Katie's in the middle, and
Yes.
we're on either side of her. There's a spot missing today.
Jason is unavailable for whatever reason. I don't know.
Okay. Senior pastor, these things happen.
Yeah.
Probably hospital visits.
Yeah, I do know that the next show that we have, Matt McGill's going to join us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
so
fun.
excited.
I like Matt.
Yeah, Matt's a good
He's a
guy.
good dude.
It'll derail the whole
Yeah,
show,
won't
but
have any wisdom.
Yeah, we'll probably
but
just have
it'll
a
be
conversation on the next show instead of many.
well, it'll be Matt's.
Yes.
It'll be Matt's
Yeah.
conversation
Yes.
Always
as well.
center of
I'll
attention.
move to the side.
He is a longtime podcast listener and resource user, a DYM author, and of course DYM 100, 200 alumni and gold member, the Reverend Steve Cullum, who writes.
Oh, yeah.
Steve actually did a very nice blog post
about
on youthspecialties.com on Sidekick. Yeah.
I saw that this morning. That was really awesome.
And if you don't know what Sidekick is, go to sidekick.tv and get a free trial of that because it's amazing
software for youth ministry.
It's the best. Yes, you have to use it.
Fun.
Take
your program to the
my
next level.
I love Sidekick.
I agree. And the fact that she talks so highly about Sidekick, we need to look into the Saddleback account
I agree.
and
Make
find
sure
out
they're
if
paying.
they're sharing it with all the different
No.
campuses,
All their campuses
they have.
Oh.
One
No.
monthly
Not that
payment
I
for
know
20
of.
campuses.
Not that I know of.
Katie Edwards. I just love that Katie was being positive. She's such an overly critical person most of the time. That was
No,
nice.
I'm for anything that is quick. On the foot especially when something bombs and you need something quick. We have used that a couple times. Just
That's
on
kind
the
of what
fly.
he says in his blog post today. Is that it was that it's like having a staff person. It's so good.
great.
Anyway,
Cool.
what
Steve.
is the best way to go about hiring to expand your team? Our church leadership is wanting to go the route of residence, like stipend and housing included. Since we don't have finances to hire another full-time staff, we're working with a residential organization to help us with onboarding. We've reached out to Facebook groups. We've connected with a few Bible colleges. But each time we think we've found someone, they're offered and accept a full-time position at another church to be the lead youth pastor. And our current students who want to pursue ministry are still several years away from a resident position. Now, I think this is probably a 10%er, so we don't need to spend a ton of time on this. 90% of the people that are part of our listening community are not adding multiple staff. But what do you guys think?
It's a really good question.
Go about hiring to expand your team.
Yeah, I like the resident program idea. I never was able to pull that off or have anything like that in my experience. I would say an intern program is a good baby step. It's a good first step. Just 10 hours a week and you can be an intern, and just lower the bar a little bit and get some people in there. I would say a part-time administrative person would be the first move that I would make. Rather than a full residency program with 8 people and you're going to spend about whatever, I don't know. I would say, for me, an administratively gifted person around 20 hours a week, it's a good baby step financially for the church, and it would be a massive win for me. So I would answer that one a little more personally. I would do that.
I think that's good. I think, too, just shifting your mindset a little bit. I think having entry-level positions means that things will turn over quick. That's just kind of the nature of those positions. And to look at that as you're part of someone's process and journey, and to kind of shift, wow, if I have someone for a year or 2 potentially, what would I do with them? How would I train them up to send them out? Some of those, I think it could, shifting your mindset might make it more of an exciting piece of just kingdom building versus just your ministry.
Yeah, especially if you're starting from scratch, and the fact that you've already had, one of the ways we learn leadership is through trial and error.
Sure.
And so one of the leadership lessons here is he says, but each time we think we've found someone, they're offered and accept a full-time position in another church to be the lead youth pastor. So for me, I go, okay, that was a learning. I was shooting too high for the quality of person, or not necessarily quality of person, the experience of a person, and I'm shooting too low with what we can offer them.
Right.
So something has to change.
Sure.
So if we're going to shoot low, church stipend and housing situation. We have to lower our, who we're
Get
looking
a sophomore in college who doesn't have the experience that you want yet, but is in your price range.
Yeah.
Versus the senior who's looking for a job right now. Just a couple other ideas. I would say if you're going to split junior high and high school, that might be a really great time to onboard someone who could, like, let's say you're really into junior high ministry, who could help with the high school students. That would be a really great way to cast that vision for to be funded as well. And then if you, Steve, is a male youth worker, I would say if you could have a female counterpart, that would be an amazing compliment to your team as well. So there's a few other ways to angle for positions that I think really offer a lot more to your students. So a few ideas.
Or thinking of ways that people could oversee specific areas of your program too. Come and be the small groups person and learn everything about small groups or some of those things.
Yeah, create job descriptions that are a little more niche.
Well, someone who oversees all of your volunteers, now all of a sudden you're going to get so much more out of your volunteers that it's literally like I've now unlocked the power of 12 people on our team when I only hired a part-time person. So.
Speaking of hiring, Josh, you and I were in Atlanta yesterday.
We were.
And we were with the Orange people, the fine sponsors of our podcast.
Go to orangestudents.com, check out the XP3 curriculum, amazing stuff.
And if you want what's our deal? If you want the cheapest price, it can only be found anywhere for the Orange XP3
you have to
curriculum.
write into us. And here's the thing,
we have a secret code.
We do. Someone wrote in for the secret code, but they wrote into support@downloadyouthministry.com. And Chip is like, what's the secret code? And I said, I can't tell you, it's a secret.
That's right. You got to send it to podcast.
Yeah, it's got to go to podcast. Got to come straight to us.
Yeah. But anyway, we found out.
Then I had to kill Chip with my bare hands.
We found out that the metrics of the youth specialties job board was off the charts.
Off the charts. It is where people go.
We didn't know this.
Jobbank.youthspecialties.com. It is like an extraordinary community of people looking for or hoping to hire in a youth ministry position. It's incredible.
Oh, I've gone there so many times.
Have you?
Yeah, it's just a great resource, and there isn't anything else like it.
Well, that's where they were telling us the
Yeah.
metrics in that, and I was like, really? I haven't pointed somebody to that, and it feels like years.
Yeah, churches can post their jobs, or youth workers can post their resumes. You can post a resume for free. For a church to post a job, they have to pay a small fee. It is extraordinary, the amount of traffic, the number of people. It's a really cool place. Jobbank NYS.
What's the domain again?
Jobbank.youthspecialties.com.
Kind of long.
It is a little long. We're going to change that. Now,
this is the. How about this? This is the subject. Subject is moral failure.
Oh.
Okay.
If we had background music right now, it'd be.
We should work on that. We have so many cameras.
If
Maybe
we had
can have
filter,
an organist.
like a little filter that came in,
An organist would be great. How funny would that be?
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, that wouldn't be this song though.
No, that would be.
What would this song be? Dun dun dun.
No, it would be like dun 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 dun.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moral failure.
Moral
Keep going.
failure. Please
That
don't
was
mention my name.
terrible.
Our team loves DYM. The games, messages, and Sidekick app make our ministry happen. Christmas parties, school assemblies, community celebrations, not to mention adult, student, kids have all used DYM products. But we can't download a care plan for what just happened to us.
Oh.
Nice transition, by the way.
A little ominous.
We had a student pastor make some bad decisions, compounded by time, hiding, and each decision got worse and worse until a clearly hidden lifestyle came to light, resulting in a moral failure with a student. Our hearts are broken, many tears shed for all involved, emotional roller coaster of anger, betrayal, lost, excited for freedom. What steps after hearing of the moral failure would you take to protect current students and help them recover? Katie, you and I know for sure without even thinking, we have been part of leadership teams where this has happened. Josh, I'm trying to think, has this happened?
I know quite a few people that have experienced it.
Yeah, but not you haven't had to deal with that straight on.
No. Definitely some questionable behavior over time, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you're coming out of a season where this is really fresh for you, too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what steps after hearing of the failure would you take to protect current students and help them recover?
I think, for us in some of the different situations that we've been in, really just loving people well, being present. I know that you can't always talk about it. You can't always give people the full story. There are times where you want to defend yourself and your actions as a leader, and that there isn't always space for those things. So I would say find a couple people to process with for you, to be an outlet, a venting space, a safe space for you to be able to kind of say and do all the things that you want to do, a trusted, couple of people. But then with with our congregation, I think it's being honest in every way that you can, being upfront as soon as you can. And I think just being willing to love people one-on-one. I find that I had more one-on-one conversations in the aftermath of something like that than I did opportunities to cast a net or to make a speech or something like that.
Yeah.
Most of the time there was, what we just went through, we had a couple of avenues to say, we're here to process with you one-on-one. We are available to have conversations and pray with you.
Some things have been hidden. We don't want to hide it, but we're not going to highlight it.
Right.
So if, just to let everybody know, we're here to talk about it.
Absolutely. So I think, ushering people into a one-on-one space would be my encouragement to you. Is any way that you could communicate that so that people knew that if they had questions or concerns or hurts, that they could come and express those things to you. And I think that was the biggest learning for me, was to quickly usher people into a place where they could communicate one-on-one.
Yeah.
Do you think in that moment, too, you have to evaluate your systems? Like, we did a background check, we did regular interviews and check-ins, and like, where did the systems break down? Or where do we not even have a policy in place that could have prevented, or maybe it's in place, but it wasn't really enforced, or it's kind of known, like, you don't really have to follow that rule. Something like that. Like, is there something, too, where in the aftermath of it, and you're like, okay, let's move forward, that you also just look at, like, how did this happen to us? Like, we want to be completely, you're responsible, but you want to be completely, do you do the best that you can to make sure that it doesn't happen again? So I think looking for loopholes and ways around and all of that is probably a really good posture.
Well, I'm thinking about the 99 or 8% that are listening to this going, well, he's not reading my letter. They're not talking about me. You're right, we're not, but we could be.
Right.
We could be a month away from getting the same letter from you. So
totally.
The question would be then, if I'm a leader and I look over my youth ministry and I go, okay, what can I learn from this situation?
Yeah.
And it goes to some of those preemptive things. I might even say something like, if I'm in a situation right now, I would go, hey, I just was listening to this podcast and they were talking about this terrible thing that happened at this church, and I want to remind all of you.
Right.
Volunteer meeting could be at your church, in your living room, whatever. I want to remind all of you that, none of us in here is perfect, but we are expecting a different lifestyle and standard.
Yeah.
And so if there's anything going on in your life right now, I want to give you an opportunity, in the next week or so. Will you ping me so we can get together and talk about that?
Yeah.
Because if you're not creating an environment where people feel free to talk about their mess, they actually go into hiding, which magnifies some of the pain that's there.
Well, I think, you bring up something good too about not only us as leaders doing that with our volunteer teams, but being willing to ask those questions of our staff. Yeah. So that was a weird learning for me, is there was some diligence that we were doing with our volunteer team that we actually weren't doing as we were hiring church staff too. Yeah. And so even, creating accountability on the church staff and being willing to ask our leaders, hey, what's our standard for hiring, and where are some of our holes just as we bring people onto our staff too. So thinking through the volunteer piece and thinking through the people that are working with us as well. Yeah. So I think it's both.
And again, if I'm a leader and this hasn't happened to me yet, I would also be thinking, okay, so what do we do if it does happen? If I get a phone call tonight, what is our next step? Or if I get a phone call in 4 months from now, which would be even more thoughtful, is to say, maybe now is the time that I get together with some senior leaders at the church, or, everybody has contingency plans in terms of like terrorism or school shootings or, that type of thing. So as a leader, it wouldn't be a bad idea for me to pull some people together and say, okay, what if we got some bad news? What do you think our plan of attack would be?
Yeah, I like that.
I think and honestly, I don't think I was in that lane, but I am now, where I'm, okay, so how do we continue to keep some of these things in front of us and just keep being diligent and keep wanting to be better and asking those questions of people as well. So I think in the spaces where nothing's happening, praise Jesus and then write this down and have these conversations. What are some of the immediate steps, communication steps, staff communication, just some of those things I think that are just,
well, and
you don't think about.
Your first moves out of any crisis are really, really important. So whether it is something this extreme,
and what you're most criticized
exactly,
for.
yeah. So the first words that you say, or your response in any way, those first steps are a really, really big deal. So know your first steps. I think is a great thought.
It was good. Good discussion. We couldn't have had that if Matt was here. but Matt will be on the next show. So
does the music change at this point from the organist, or does it stay ominous? Do we know?
What's the next question? Are we going to bounce
if
up
there was
to
a live
programming or
live
games?
organist here?
We talk about sidekick.
Give him or her some clues.
This is from
Interesting choice.
Jenna.
Hi, Jenna. Great to see you.
Say your last name, Katie, so you hack it instead of me.
I think it's Bajuzik.
Bajuzik, which is music to my ear.
Which I've met her.
Have you?
Yeah.
Really?
She's great.
That's so fun. All right.
Great. She says we have a couple of things where we take applications for and cannot accept everyone who applies, like an international mission trip and kids camp leaders. We've had a couple students recently get turned down for these opportunities who have reacted by leaving in huge emotional outbursts, meetings with tears, quitting small group, creating drama with other students and volunteers. How can I best lead in this situation? Super good question.
Oh, that's so hard. I just say yes to everybody. It saves you from a lot of trouble. You're the good guy, and I say just make that your policy.
That's why you have to have a good admin.
And if people are questioning that, you don't need to, right, Katie? That's
No,
true about
This is
us.
what you say.
That's
You just say,
very true.
listen, I know it's a tough call. I believe in them. I think this international trip is the thing that's going to change your life. You got to trust me as your leader. And then it does, and it's okay.
Okay, so but what Jenna's situation is,
I don't like
I've
this
been hearing about it
situation.
every year because my daughter, who was overseeing the Haiti trip at the church she worked at, for the last 7 years, you have to turn people down.
It's so hard.
Every year. You can't take that many, for whatever reason, they can't take that many people. And how do you do that? Part of it is you have to establish the expectation ahead of time.
Right.
Similar to, in different ways, but similar to what we just talked about. You're creating, the pain is happening.
Right.
So can you take some of the sting out of the pain ahead of time? So hey, look, we're not going to be able to take everybody, but we want everybody to apply. All things being equal, like if Joe and Jennifer were at the same spiritual status, and we're going to go with grade. So we're going to take the seniors.
Take the older kids first as their last chance. Yeah.
So you establish the fact that maybe not everybody is going to be able to do this, but would you please apply, because that'll give us a great opportunity to talk to you about.
Yeah.
I think it's always good to, anytime you're delivering bad news, maybe to think of what an alternative might be, or something else they can participate in, or a next step, or, hey, this isn't the time to go on this particular trip, but just, here's a couple other things happening in our church that I think would be a great alternative. So I definitely think sometimes students especially have their mind set on something, and same with volunteers when they want to go to something. They have that thing in mind, but sometimes when you offer up some other routes, it lessens the blow a little bit.
So an example would be, hey, we don't have enough room on the Africa trip for everybody, but over spring break,
there's a Mexico mission trip or something.
And you could even be a leader on that trip, where you'd be just an attender in Africa. You could be a leader in Mexico. That would be awesome.
So maybe think through ahead of time. I mean, I do the same thing, like when a volunteer isn't a fit, I don't want to just say, you're done with us. They're part of our church. So I want to help them find a better fit. So,
join the prayer team. Just pray for us quietly away from here.
The prison ministry. You'll be great there. But I think that's good with kids and leaders too, of just, hey, here's a couple other alternatives that maybe you haven't thought of yet. So
that's
that
good.
might help.
And when kids do leave with an emotional outburst and creating drama, you can just say, see?
You weren't ready. You weren't ready to go on this trip.
You have proved
it. You're a loser.
Proven it.
Don't you think, though, be as specific as you can why they're not going? Because I think kids will fill in the blanks of well, I'm not your favorite, or I'm a failure, or I already Instagrammed this and now I have to un-Instagram that I'm going to Africa. It's really messy. So I think as specific as you can be. So if there is something like, hey, listen, you had a really tough year, and this trip is not for you, but we believe in you. We want you to apply next year and try to give some, rather than, yeah, you didn't make it, man, sorry. Like, I just think if you can give them some type of feedback to help them grow, and obviously delivered with as much gentleness as possible, because that, I do not like this. I have very little to add to this conversation because
you can only control your part.
Things.
You can't control anybody's response. So really examine your part and how it's being delivered and what's being said.
Exactly.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about the podcast network?
Well,
how's it going?
It's going great. We launched it on 1 year ago, January 2018. It's now January 2019. It has hundreds of thousands of downloads of our shows. We just recently added a video game show, a parent tips show, which is really fun. We're relaunching a show called DYM Create. We're going to add a co-host to that one and kind of take that one to the next level, which is fun. We're also taking this show to the next level with multiple cameras and rich audio. So yeah, I would say if I'm going to recommend highlight one today, I'm going to say the morning after ministry show. Our friends, couple youth pastors, Andrew and Timothy, host a show every Monday and just talks about what's going on in their church from Sunday, and they're talking about it on Monday. Really fun, lots of energy. Two good friends of ours. That's just one of now, what is this? We have a dozen shows in youth ministry.
Besides ours, our longest running is Youth Ministry Hacks, right? With Justin Knowles.
Hacks been around for a few years.
People love that.
A really popular show. Yeah. Justin and Matthew done a really good job creating just fun, quick show about hacks. Right now, their newest show is hacks to kick off the new year right, as youth workers thinking about that in January. So that's a fun show they just put up. Frank, 15 Minutes with Frank isn't easy. He's like a character. Although I told Doug yesterday, I've never said this publicly, I listened to Frank's show on 1.5 speed because he just talks a little slow. He's a really chill dude. So I listened to it a little faster.
Oh, you speed it up a little.
I speed it up.
I just pointed all my volunteers to the network at the top of this year because I can't be face-to-face with them as much as I would like. And there is so much good information. And so just for them to, do self-directed training and grow on their own, and there's something for everyone. I just did a big push.
That's awesome.
Saying this is a great place to just go and learn and grow.
And speaking about volunteer training, that just gives me an opportunity to say that if it's not on your calendar, get it on your calendar, everybody. September 21st, 2019 is going to be our first National Day of Volunteer Youth Ministry Training. Training. And it'll be the three of us.
We're having special effects.
Dr. Kara Powell from the Fuller Youth Institute has got amazing stuff on how to help
us and
parents
a bunch
win.
of fancy people.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. Mark Ostreicher, who's written a bunch on youth ministry, going to talk about some new learnings on the teenage brain. He's been talking about the teenage brain for a few years, but he's got some new insight on that. Carl Romeus, who's from Northern California, which is really kind of another state from us.
We don't even really claim it.
God's country.
NorCal.
But
AKA.
Carl's doing some amazing ministry, and he's talking about volunteer-friendly discipleship ideas. Dr. Chap Clark, who's one of my all-time favorites.
We're stacking this thing.
Talking about what all kids need from caring adults. Heather Fleece.
She is a ball of energy.
I wish she lived
so
here.
Fun.
I wish she lived here.
She would be the fourth member. I'd boot Josh.
Oh, I'd go. Yeah, I would just sit right there and listen because she posted on Instagram.
If Heather and Josh were on this together, we wouldn't.
Which would be okay. I'd be all right. I'd listen to both of them.
She is a character. She just brings so much energy and fun.
Oh my gosh,
and also
she's a great youth worker.
She's a great youth worker, and she's wise and experienced. I just am excited. And you get to teach a session. We'll get to hang. It's going to be fun.
Excited.
Yeah, and so we've got, right now, we've got about 160-ish host cities. So
we had another one sign up today.
One close to you.
Michelle? I think Michelle signed up today. We just had another one blip on the map.
We haven't opened up registration yet, but we will soon. I mean, maybe by the time you're listening to this, it might be open. So go to trainmyvolunteers.com, save the date. We're going to make it super affordable. If you want to host, it's really affordable.
It is.
For you not only to host, but to bring all your volunteers.
And locations all over the map. But we are realizing that youth workers are going to pile in a van and go to a location that's maybe 30, 45 minutes away, maybe tops. So if you look on the map and you're like, we are 2 hours from the closest spot, well, either A, commit to going, or B, host in your city. Invite your network, your friends, your volunteers. Great times.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Come listen to Katie Edwards. Train your team.
Katie, the studio. I'm going to tell you afterwards. We're going to keep it a secret.
Don't say anymore. We're going to a special place
excited.
to shoot. We're not just shooting it in here. We're We're going to a place.
Oh my! Oh my!
It's really fun. We just locked it in.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
this is a 30-minute show, which we've said with 3 cameras, we're going to keep it to 30 minutes. It's kind of a new year,
great.
new you. Well, we've been saying 30 minutes for about 2 years.
About 300
Maybe
shows.
longer.
I don't know. It's always.
How long have we been doing the show? 12. We're in our 12th
100
year?
years.
I don't know.
Through episode 347? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous, guys.
No, it's not.
This is your life's work, Katie. Whatever happens at the church,
we haven't
fine.
gone on location somewhere exotic, which
been
I
a
feel
long
like
time.
should be our
I
next
agree.
big move. Like
There
being
was-
somewhere.
Like
There was-
Minneapolis and have Heather on the show.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, like from the snow or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there was one show Matt and
if
Doug were
Minneapolis
in.
is exotic.
You were in a castle somewhere.
We were in Germany.
Germany,
Early
that's
on.
right.
Yeah, we did a.
like episode 12 or something way back.
Wow.
So let's go there.
That.
Or Hawaii.
Good.
We
Yeah.
could go Hawaii with the
We're going to
biggest-
have to ramp up our sponsorships.
That's true.
We're going to have to charge Leader Treks.
Thank you, Leader
Well,
Treks.
we can get Del
Thank you,
Taco on
Orange.
board.
Del Taco should be.
We need a beverage sponsor.
Need a beverage
like
sponsor.
LaCroix. Brought to you by LaCroix.
Yeah, we had a hair
Water.
sponsor until they saw me. And they were like, oh.
They could see
I'm sorry.
Katie's and they could get back in.
Yeah.
Look at
Anyway,
Katie. She looks
you
great
all
today.
are
Watch
wonderful. Tune in to episode 348 and watch the Matt McGill train wreck. That's episode
can't wait.
348.
Anyway, organ music out. Put some organ music on.
Send your questions to podcast at downloadyouthministry.com. We think
That's-
you're wonderful. We think you're wonderful. All right,
everybody.
Talk soon.